Hello, welcome to Microsoft Cloud Option webinar series. Today I'm going to present the third part of the five-part webinar series on Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework. In short, we also call as CAF. In today's webinar, I'm going to discuss and focus more on how you can make your cloud environment ready for migration and modernization. My name is Vivek Bhatnagar. I am a CTO and founder of UnifyCloud. My day job is to help customers in migration and modernization of IT systems and applications, particularly on Microsoft Azure. The objective of today's session is typically four major objectives we are going to talk. The first and foremost, we are going to talk about landing zone, like what is about landing zone, why it is important, how do you create different kind of landing zone for different workloads. And once we discuss our landing zone, then we actually go and start talking about how do you expand this landing zone for introducing new workloads which have more critical requirements on compliance and cost and other thing. Then we also going to discuss here that how do we organize our resources in a subscription and other thing. Finally, we are going to discuss more on available tools and templates for having correctly this landing zone established in Azure, which brings us towards the agenda of this session. The agenda of the session again, like organized into four parts. The first part is definitely focus on pre-landing zone. Sometimes I call everything as a landing zone, but just for the sake of simplicity, we are calling these activities as a pre-landing zone. At this point of time, you need to talk about how customer is going to manage their costing and billing. For example, is it a cost center based? It is a chargeback, what kind of cost and billing they're going to have, how they are going to manage the identity and access and role-based access for Azure environment, what's their plan for governance, monitoring, security, compliance, and finally, how they are monitoring the whole aspect of things. So these are the pre-landing zone discussions. These are like highly recommended. And from my experience, these take one of the very long time, sometime in the case of a very large organization. Then how you can use that discussion and knowledge from the first pre-landing zone and apply it to an Azure side and plan for building an enterprise class landing zone. Then what are the main things that you have to keep in mind for expanding the landing zone? What are the consideration, best practices to build these kinds of landing zone? And again, finally, there are some tools we are going to talk about landing zone, the different benchmarking tools available for typically in a readiness phase. I have just put two slides to talk about Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework. I typically show these slides in case you're coming to my first session and you would like to know a little bit more about what is Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework. Typically, if we talk about cloud, it fundamentally changed how enterprise procure, use, secure technology resources. Traditionally, enterprises assume ownership of all the resources end to end, from technology, from infrastructure, software. But as they are moving to the cloud, they can provision and they can actually start taking benefit of the cloud. They can provision any resources and they can provision up to any time they need. So cloud is providing them tremendous flexibility in design, choices, and other things. But it also introduced a lot of complexity that how they can adopt this new technology, how they manage these new technologies. And Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure meets that need only. It is helping and guiding customers in all their decisions throughout their cloud adoption. We can call also that Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure is one Microsoft approach for cloud adoption in Azure, consolidating and sharing the best practices not only from Microsoft employees, but from partners and customers. This framework gives a customer a set of tools, guidance, narratives that can help in shaping their technology, business, and people strategy for driving the desired business outcome during their cloud journey or cloud adoption effort. And it can be described like in a like a very simple like a box or section, which I say. So this is typically the way we divide cloud adoption framework in main three parts, and that's why I say that the main three parts are planning, plan, readiness, and adopt. It is preceded by building a cloud strategy, which is very important to make a successful transition to the cloud. And it is also surrounded by governance, operation, and management aspect of it. So this is the whole framework and methods. This also give you a lot of tools so that you can use in while building this journey. Like this offer a lot of tools, templates, also share a lot of third-party tool information in case you can use. And all that information that which we're talking about is actually also like cloud agnostic. So you can apply these learnings in any of the public or even for private clouds. Particularly this method of taking a cloud journey consists of very high level components that guide the implementation at every box which is shown in this image, and it is in a life cycle fashion. So it is within an iterative model. You can actually apply to a smaller journey of a cloud or maybe complete journey of your cloud. But the process, this whole thing is making the complete process simpler. If we talk about strategy first, it is mostly about talking about business strategies, like talking about motivations, talking about like what are the business outcomes customers are looking for, then also considering what are the business justification and priorities they are working on. And we can, based on those strategies, priorities, outcome, we build a cloud adoption plan. And cloud adoption plan, we mainly focus on analyzing and understanding digital states, like for example, your VM databases and other thing, and also how we can organize the organization alignment while moving to the cloud. Side by side, we build a skill plan to make sure that the plan is successful. We also build something called cultural change plan or cultural plan, which I typically call just to make sure that everybody is comfortable in this cloud journey. Once we have a very solid strategy and plan, then we transition to the readiness phase, for which we are going to talk today in detail. And this is about preparing the cloud environment for cloud. So it is, I always take an analogy of a house, that before you start living in a house, you have to do a lot of things in a house. You have to do plumbing, you have to do electricity, you have to do everything, like, you need a heating, cooling, and other utilities. Then you can go and live in a house. So readiness is the same way, that you are preparing your house for your housing your digital assets for your apps and VMs, and preparing as per your specifications, compliances, cost, and other thing with the best practices. That's readiness, which we are going to discuss. Once we are ready with this environment, then the main phase, when we migrate our workloads to the cloud. So we migrate, and how do we expand? And there are different ways of migrating, from simple lift and shift to basically while migrating modernization, that we are going to discuss in our next session, adopt. And finally, once you are in cloud, the success also dictated by how well you have set the governance parameters, how well you can manage the whole environment, and how well you are achieving the business outcome which you have agreed with the management at the start of the project. So this is a very brief discussion around this framework, and this framework actually help you in realizing your business outcomes and goals if it's followed it properly.